against unreliable mat. Knight f3, and what should we do? Knight f3 is interesting. A lot of options here. It's kind of a flexible first move. Does look like he's kind of going in the English direction. I will say that against knight f3, d5 is a great normal first move. He's preventing e5. I'll play d5 happily. Happily. G3. So we're definitely getting our predictions right in terms of what white's setting up here. And most likely I would guess c4. So let's see, what kind of setup do we want? What kind of setup do we want? I usually go for a kind of reversed London setup. I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to play knight c6, which looks like a bit of a suspicious move. If d4 happens, I'll play bishop f5, and I'll kind of play a reverse Jobava London. Against this move, I want to take the entire center with e5. And specifically, the setup that I'm trying to get here is actually going to be g6, bishop g7, and knight e7. That's kind of what I want. Yeah, and if knight f6, it's a little bit annoying because you get pinned and then c4, knight c3. So going here, we'll go bishop g7. Knight e7 supports the knight, supports the center, but also bishop g5 is kind of less effective. So that's my setup. That was my reasoning. Often white goes like this and gets the queen out, and there's a lot of pressure down here, which is why I really like the knight on e7. It lends some support to the other guy there. And especially when you're playing the black pieces and white plays something like this, it's a little annoying sometimes to play knight f6 because you walk into these positions after bishop g5 where the center comes under so much pressure so early on because white has that extra move. It doesn't really feel good. So you kind of have to adjust. Let's play, like I said, continue. 87. So we want to castle. We do want to play h6. And the main reason we want to play h6 is actually so that we can play bishop e6 and not have to deal with knight g5. So everything I'm seeing here, I'm pretty happy about so far. My setup has gone well. h6, bishop here, and oh! Hang on a sec. h6, bishop e6, queen d7, rook d8. That was going to be my setup, just so we all know. That's what I was going to go for. But after b3, I don't think anyone needs a reminder that e4 is actually the move we want. Immediately taking advantage of that long diagonal that white just was not appreciating. And oh my goodness. Knight d4 is wrong in so many ways. That is a free knight. But it's such a free knight. I could take it with my knight. I could take it with the bishop. It's such a mistake that I'm not even sure how to handle it. Like, I actually have a real choice here. Not sure which one's better. I guess with the bishop. I guess. It's really hard to say. Both look so good. Like bishop takes and maybe e3 or something. Knight takes. Kind of have to move the rook and then knight b5. Take with the knight. And I think knight b5 is strong enough after... Because very likely we'll see this. And then at least, you know, we have knight e2 or something. And even though we'll lose a pawn here, we'll get the dark square bishop. And we should be in a good spot there. Pawn takes. Little intermediate move. But we don't need to do it. We can do it right here. After rook b1. And then we can take. No need to rush. Now, save this bishop. And what are we up? Probably, well, it's going to be a bishop and a pawn. It's a very good start. Knight c6, knight d4, bishop e6, rook to the open file. Those are our next moves. Dark squares are going to be a serious problem for my opponent here. Not a bad move. Let's save the knight. This looks like a fantastic square. Yeah, I mean, knight f3 covers this, but even a trade there works out pretty nicely for me. Remember, we're always interested in trades. As soon as you get up that material, like significant material, like a full piece, that is usually more than enough. And at that point, you can just solicit trades for the rest of the game, and you can win just like that. Knight d4, hitting the queen. Maybe he wants to go queen e7. Queen d1. So our pieces are all finding pretty good squares. Let's not let up. Continue the pressure, develop a piece. I'm going to keep it so simple and just take. Could have maybe left it there, but yeah, I don't know. Why complicate things? Let's trade knight for knight. Is it going to be queen takes b3? Yes. c6 makes a lot of sense. I was also looking at queen d7 to make my own threat there. Kind of like queen d7. It's like, if you want to take me, I'm going to win one of these pawns, so pretty happy with that. Okay, I think we want to go just c6. Covers e7, and if the bishop goes back, we can take on h3. d3 is also hanging, but I actually think perhaps h3 is the more important pawn to capture. Takes and queen takes h3 is so simple. Takes here might actually be the better move, but let's keep it real easy by capturing there and then taking on h3. Rook d8, and basically if you challenge the d file, I'm just gonna keep trading. There's not much you can do here to keep black down. Looking to take the d file, double up. Keep going. Bishop d4 is always tempting because we're gonna have queen takes g3. For the moment though, things can be defended laterally. So we don't want to just rush into it. It'll most likely work, but I don't think we need to rush. Rook e3, so not really threatening g4 or anything because we can just take it. Bishop d4. Bishop h6 I'm actually looking at. And I don't mind. But I can't see anything better or simpler than just doubling. So let's just do that. Let's start with what's easy to do. Looks like he wants to put the rook on that square. Okay, pawn to e5. I still don't think we have met any opposition to our plan of just doubling and, bringing the rook down to d2. This looks pretty good. e6, in case it happens, is actually covered by the queen. Time to start using this extra piece. We're almost there. We've got the rooks doubled. The queen's in position. Rook d1 will be checkmate as soon as a queen or rook leaves the defense of that square. So it's important to notice that as well. And the reason I mention that is, let's say it's our turn here. Rook to d2. All of a sudden, that queen needs to stay covering that. Queen here, and queen here. Kind of the only moves. Of course, there's a few other moves, but those are the main ones that stay alive. So rook d2 looks, A+. A+ for rook d2. What else do we look at here? Bishop h6. I really like that move as well. It's the rook. So let's say here queen b3. Start to think what's the next move? Because I'm seeing a world where we just take on f2 and go queen h2 and try to get a mate going there. or rook takes and rook d2. So I definitely think I'm going to start with rook d2. I cannot see anything wrong with this. And it opens the door for rook takes f2 stuff. Really depends where this queen goes. But queen b3, rook takes f2, king takes, rook down to d2 check. If the rook blocks, queen h2 picks up the rook. So, you know, if the king goes here, I'm just not really sure I'm seeing answers to moves like queen g2, connecting the queen and rook on the second rank. I mean, that king is just stranded. So rook takes f2, rook d2 should be more or less winning, which is why this move is actually particularly good. Rook d1 takes, rook e1, takes, winning for black. And it's great to have that in your back pocket. This move, you know, we can trade at least one pair of rooks. So, okay, we've got that in our back pocket. What about this? Takes, king takes, you know, rook d2, king e1, not so simple anymore. Rook e2 also a little bit tricky maybe. Okay. What else can we do? Queen e4. Well, if we go rook f2, king takes, queen h2, even king f1, I'm not seeing the forced win. Not seeing the forced win. So it's definitely making me think in this position that I want to do something like bishop h6 or rook d4, because they both make another threat and maybe pass the move back to my opponent. Bishop h6. If rook f3, I'm kind of wondering what the prescription is there. What are we supposed to come up with? If rook d4, queen f3, I don't even have rook d1 anymore. So while that may be a decent move, somehow it also feels a little incorrect. So I actually think queen e4, my opponent is covering things for the most part. Very winning for black because we just need to trade everything. But in terms of mating threats, mating patterns, why am I actually getting the feeling that everything feels defended here? Defended well enough, let's say. It seems like he's done enough. So I'm now thinking to myself, okay, maybe we just bail out, trade a pair of rooks. You know, gotta be good enough. Can't be a mistake, that's for sure. Yeah, rook d1 seems like it should be enough. Of course, we'll remove the recapture. Yeah, many moves here, as you can imagine. Smash factor is tough to differentiate when you're up a piece. It's like literally a6 would be a good move, you know? So hard to differentiate, which is the precise reason why I went for this, because I'm like, at this point, I'm seeing so many possible moves. They all look okay. None of them look completely winning. So let me just choose the thing that trades pieces. Keep it the most simple. And a good reply. Rook back to e1. I think rook takes on b1 makes the most sense because it would force one of his pieces to move to the side where it doesn't really want to be. Okay, so although this is not the best move, perhaps, I think it's the best move because it trades queens. And if white plays queen e1, we're just winning the pawn. So, big fan of this. I just did not see checkmate materializing there. Once we decided on rook d1, we went for a different plan. Instead of trying to win the game with the queen, we were clearly in the mood to trade pieces. And I have this one extra bishop, which is always going to win me the game. So, may as well give it a chance to do that. Okay, well, obviously he wants to keep the queen on, but the only move he had was queen e1, and we would have just taken the pawn. But, of course, with the free rook here, it'll probably be resignation. Yeah. Credit to my opponent. We were threatening to trade queens, threatening to win the pawn. Neither of those things happened, you know? A lot of hanging stuff. He also left his connection hanging as well. Yeah, his name is Unreliable Matt. You can't be surprised here. It's only one more minute. Go me. 30 seconds. Let's rave. Hey, chilled living. Welcome, buddy. The last 15 seconds of this game. Boy, this has been a stunner. The last 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, damn it. Damn it, Matthew. GG. We didn't see too much happen in this one because we won a piece so quick. But one thing that did occur is we settled on this plan, this opening plan, that I thought was kind of interesting. First of all, knight c6, I'm trying to think of the equivalent, and if you reverse the colors, it's probably easier to imagine. So if white plays d4, black plays knight f6, for the most part, if white threatens to play e4, black will often, after knight c3, for example, play d5. And so that's how you get a lot of people into the Jobava London, d5. Now, if you don't want to play d5 and you play g6, that's fine. But remember, because the knight's on c3 and not the pawn on c4, you're not actually playing a King's Indian here. You might think you are, but you're not. You're playing a Pierce. Pawn to d6 now, because if you go d5, I play e5. It's much different. So you play pawn to d6, but it's not the King's Indian. f4 is possible, a bunch of other different lines. Point is, it's not the exact same opening. Okay. So what does that mean for us in our game? I played d5, and after g3, we played knight c6. Now, I'm threatening e5 the same way white was threatening e4 in the symmetrical position. White pretty much needs to play this move. And after you do, I'll play bishop f5, and if white plays bishop g2, I might play knight b4. Force the knight to go there, play e6, and okay, it's an interesting position. If white doesn't play that after bishop here, it might sound weird, but I think black's already doing extremely well here. It seems odd, but black has a phenomenal position. Does not deserve to be this good this early. Takes, and one thing that I caution, although the move e4 is playable here, I always caution against it, because after e4, white plays knight e1, and you have to remember, as black, I'm essentially playing against a, Pierce setup for white, except I'm a move down. I'm playing white's position against the Pierce. Obviously, colors are flipped. But I'm playing white's position against the Pierce, except I'm a move down. So I don't really want to get into these positions where I'm overextending, because white's going to go d3 next. He's going to try to open the position up. And it's not clear to me that we actually want that to happen when I'm playing a move down from how it's normally played. So e4 sometimes is nice to kick the knight, but oftentimes it's just overextending because white's going to play d3 and c4 anyway, and they're really going to undermine your entire center. So that's why I played this. Sticking to my system here. And the idea is knight e7. Not knight f6, but knight e7. I think it's a big difference. And let's imagine my opponent didn't blunder big time with that move and maybe played like, I don't know, e4. I would have played probably h6. I want to bring my bishop out, but not into that move. C3 or something. Bishop e6. If pawn takes, I'm always taking with the knight. This knight can always jump back to e7. Queen b3 doesn't make a lot of sense with the bishop there. But you see how this is easy to play. Queen d7 hits the pawn. d3 is loose. We'll bring a rook to d8, rook e8. Maybe I play f5 later. But it's so easy to play. Let's say white doesn't take. Bishop e6, you're not taking. Rook e1 or something. Okay. Play queen d7. You play king h2, right? I might play rook d8. It's just a really easy game to play. I always enjoy it. And bishops are so safe. There's no knight g5. We can play f5 at some point. Maybe even now would be an interesting move. a5 is another useful move to stop b4 and maybe play a4 ourselves. Just gain space. And at this point, I don't feel like white's attacking us with f4. I don't feel like white's playing in the center with d4. White can't even play b4 at this point. Like, what is white up to? Knight b3 always gets handled by b6. And the main reason that this system is nice is b6 always handles these two squares, and you don't have to worry about this diagonal because your knight's not on f6. Your knight's on e7. So you're defending this knight already, and you'll just move the rook out of the way next turn. So it's comfortable to know that your long diagonal is not ever really at risk. Take this square, and it's a very harmonious setup for black. But it's very important that you play h6 before bishop e6. You play knight e7, castle. I think it's really nice. Really comfy.